Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have on Jake Shamabukuro. Close enough? Did I say it?
Oh yeah, that was perfect. That was
Okay.
perfect.
That's the hardest part. I'm the worst with names. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on. And I just want to say I'm just so grateful and just appreciative. I know you started this just to support musicians, during the pandemic and all of that. And man, I tell you, appreciate it so much and your
Wow.
support. So thank you for having me on. I'm
Well,
honored,
hey,
man, because the list of people you've had on the show is pretty outstanding.
I've been lucky, like you say. I think I'm very lucky and blessed, and my heart's in it. This is a passion project. It's not a money making project. It's just all my all my love of music is all combined.
That's
And
awesome.
that's obviously why we're here. You are a fantastic ukulele,
Oh, thank you.
and you've been playing. There's an awesome documentary. Is it Fourth Strings? Is the name of the
Hmm.
documentary?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, Life on Four
fantastic.
Strings. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super good. Um, I think like everybody else that came across you when you're the first video you did with the Beatles song at Central Park about 2006, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think I looked recently. It's 17 million views now. So a couple of people
Wow.
have seen it. That's huge. That's such an insane number on YouTube. YouTube is so crazy with those numbers. But you've gone
Yeah.
on, you've done albums, you've played with everybody. It's just insane to the point now. You have I'm looking down a list here. Jake and Friends is your newest album. We're gonna bounce back and forth. It's so good. You have so many artists on it. It's incredible. Like, where did you start? Was it like a wish list or a bucket list, or how did you like come into these names? It's insane.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for saying all those nice things. Yeah, it started with, it's my first duets record, collaborative record. And it started with a conversation that I had with my manager, Van Fletcher is his name. He works out in Nashville. And 4 years ago, we sat down and he just, we were just throwing out ideas. And he actually mentioned, he said, hey, you should do a duets record, collaborative record. And I thought, oh man. And he started throwing out some names. And I was like, wow, okay, yeah, that would be cool. But in the back of my head, I'm thinking, this is never going to happen, right? How are we going to reach all these people? And how are we going to persuade them to come and do this record with me? But luckily, a longtime friend of ours, Ray Benson, who's also on the record, he's from
Mhm.
a band called Asleep at the Wheel.
Yep.
He agreed
Sounds so
to
good. Sound good. So good. Just jumps
Oh
out at you,
man,
that song.
his voice is crazy, right?
It sounds
And
so
that's a
huge. Like
that's
my
a
whole car got engulfed and I was listening to it.
yeah.
I was like, whoa, I feel like he's right next to me. It's like,
Wrapped in
yeah,
paper. He's got that
that is the
low
best.
baritone
Oh,
bass thing.
yeah.
But he agreed to co-produce it with us. And the first phone call he made was to Willie Nelson. And 2 months later, we were in the studio
Oh,
recording Stardust with Willie Nelson. Then after that, Michael McDonald came in. Then we flew up to LA to meet Bette Midler. We recorded The Rose. Michael McDonald did a Moody Blues tune called Go Now. And of
yep.
course, I'm born and raised in Hawaii. So, it was easy to get Jack Johnson and Paula Funga. Jack is, I just admire him so much, man. He does so much for the community. He's an incredible artist. And he was just so supportive of this record as well. We got Ziggy Marley, Jimmy
Yep.
Buffett, Kenny Loggins. I mean, it's insane, So
It's like a history record of
yeah,
music.
I'm not. Yeah, and I'm really proud, of the record. And and the coolest thing, well, for me, I think about it is that we were, except for two or three of the tracks, we couldn't do it in person because of the
Mhm.
pandemic, but all the other tracks were all recorded live in the studio, and they're live takes,
That's
which
incredible.
is very rare, right? Because a lot of times when you do a duets record, it's, oh, we're gonna, we'll send you my track,
Yeah.
and then you send it back, and we'll send it out. And so I think it just kind of captures that vibe
Was it
of
all in the same studio? Did they all
it.
come down to the same studio, or did you have to fly
No,
out to
no,
where they were?
I flew, wherever they were. That's kind of where I went to go meet them. So,
These
but
legends
it
sound
was nice,
great.
man.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm sorry.
sorry.
These legends, they sound great. There's no aging. There's no nothing. And I'm gonna say we'll go back and
Oh.
forth, like I said, but we can talk about Lucas,
Mm,
the sleeper of the group, because of all these names, these are huge names. I mean, he's known. but these are monsters in the industry, and he's still up and coming. His talent,
Mm,
his guitar playing, his singing, and that song is like, I can't pick a favorite, but that song is like definitely the top, man, that he does with you guys. That
yeah.
is so good.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. And he was the only musician who came in and every take he did was perfect. I mean, we ended up recording 4 or 5 songs that day in like a
He's a
matter of
monster.
5 hours. I mean, he
It's gonna
came
be
in. I
huge.
mean, yeah, he is just his guitar playing is solid, his
Mhm.
singing, his pitch, every take he did was perfect. I mean, the only reason we had to do it a couple other times was because I kept screwing up, So, but his part was perfect every single time. It was like, man, his chords are so clean and just his feel, his intonation, his pitch. I mean, gosh, such a monster. Yeah, you're spot on with that.
Well, I've been watching for the years. So what's really interesting also, because you don't play with a lot of other musicians, like like instrumental bands. So you've been the kind of in control of your own timing of a song, too fast, too slow
Mm.
over the years. So but working with other musicians or not having drums or a band or a bass, was the transition kind of hard for you because like you used to? Because sometimes if you make a mistake or you go a little too fast, you control it. But if you're working with somebody else, you're not thinking about it. You know what I mean? Are you just a built-in metronome where you kind of know it?
No, it's yeah, a lot of I mean, yeah, you definitely play different when you're playing to a click or when you're or if you're just kind of more rubato and just kind of going with the
Right.
flow. So and I want to say I think there were maybe 2 or 3 tracks where we recorded to a click, like the Warren Haynes track. We recorded to a click, but it was all recorded live. But we still
Yeah.
used the click. Um, what else do we? The Kenny Loggins tune we tracked to a click, but the rest were all just it was just feel.
Which
I
is good.
remember recording with Willie Nelson. That was that
That would have been
was
the biggest for me. That would have been
scary
the hardest thing for
because
me. I was like, oh my God, it's Willie
yeah,
Nelson.
because I mean, the way that he phrases his melody is just it's unbelievable, right? So sometimes it's like, wait, am I behind? Wait, do I have to catch up? Or oh wait, am I going too far ahead? But the thing is, what I realize is, man, I mean, not what I realize, but we all know how incredible of a musician he is.
Right.
So even if no matter what happens, like he's able to just, I don't know, bring that magic to it, no matter what happens. I mean, he just has that ability, so I realized that, what, I don't have to be nervous because no matter what, he's gonna make me sound good.
Oh, I just would have been distracted. Like he's playing, I'd be like, oh, like
Yeah.
just watching him. Like
And
I couldn't play. I'd be so
oh,
distracted.
I was totally starstruck with all of these, with everyone who came in. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it was unbelievable. So yeah, so I mean, for me, the best thing I realized was just as soon as they came into the studio, I would just basically bow and just be like, I'm so honored you're doing this. I'm a huge fan. You know what, I'm super nervous, but anything we can do to make you as comfortable as you can be in the studio, just let us know. So
The
just
thing is,
I think putting that out there,
yeah,
just putting that out there in the beginning, I think helped to break the ice and help me to calm my nerves, at least for a little bit.
you've got the reputation, and I think as an artist, this is a lot of challenges. A lot of these artists you've never seen before, like worked with. You don't usually work with do duets, so a lot of these were you're pushing yourself as an artist. I mean, some of the people you've met. I know you worked with Bette Midler, you did the Rose a while back together, so that was kind of right coming together. You've had done that before with her for Familiar. One of the things I think is really cool is we did 2 Beatles songs, but you did one with John Anderson from Yes, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
How'd you get into that one? Because
One of my favorite voices ever. I mean,
you know that
yeah.
voice in your ear.
Oh my gosh. And what's so crazy is he sounds, I mean, the way that he sings, that's how he talks too. So I remember the first time I talked with him on the phone, it was like, wow, it's like John Anderson singing in my phone. Not like he's singing, but
No, I know.
it's that voice, right? It's just insane. So, yeah, that was one of the coolest things because I never thought I would hear that iconic voice, singing to an ukulele. I mean, it's crazy. And he loves the ukulele, actually. He plays, Yeah. And I was telling him, you got to play on this record. And he's like, no, I'm just going to sing. I was like, okay. But Michael McDonald is playing baritone ukulele on that track that we played
Which
together.
doesn't surprise me. I think he plays every instrument around, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's insane. He's
a legend.
Oh my gosh. But I was going to say, Jimmy Buffett, who was one of the, he was really one of the artists who kind of took me under his wing early on when I started touring, especially in the States and all that, and brought me out on the road with him and the Core Reefer Band. This was right after that YouTube video had hit. So he introduced me to a lot of those people, on the record. So, and I just I'm so grateful, that he's on this record as well, because he was such a big supporter and still is. I mean, he helps me out so much, with everything I do.
Well, he's a nice guy. He's a good guy. He's talented, smart businessman too. I mean, I think he owns like half the earth now. No, like he's the joke, but he's so smart. It's so nice to see musicians actually like make money and do well. And that's what I'm joking because it's like he's good. Billy Strings was kind of cool. You had him on there. That was just fantastic.
Yeah. That was the first time I played with him. And I got to tell you this story about it because the first time we met was at the studio, and we had agreed before meeting in the studio that we would just write something together. So when he got to the studio, I kind of, it was our first time meeting. So it was like, hey man, so great to meet you. We were chatting for a bit. And then we started talking about like, techniques and things like that. But then we started, I told him, hey, I kind of had an idea for like a melody that we could kind of play off of. And, so I would play a little bit of this. And he said, oh yeah, that's great. And then maybe we can go to this and go to that. And we're like, oh yeah, that'd be fun. And so we're just like, oh, let's just try it. And we just started playing. And during that time, the camera crew was setting up. I mean, the mics were all set up and stuff already, but the camera crew was still setting up their cameras because they wanted to videotape us playing. So we just started playing, and we're just having so much fun, and we're just going for it. And prior to us jamming, we did agree that at some point we got to go into a quicker, thing so he can do, his shredding. So we just spontaneously like kind of did the ballad thing, and then we just looked at each other, and I just started strumming this thing, and he went into his groove and started, and we were just smiling and just going for it. And then after we were done, we looked at each other, we're like, man, that was cool, and we didn't know that we were being recorded on the mics, not the cameras, because the cameras are still being set up. So so we're just like, oh man, that's cool, let's record something like that. So a few minutes later, we kind of wrote down our notes of like, oh yeah, we did the verse like 3 times and went to the chorus, and then we went to that. So anyways, and then we tried it again, and it was all right, but it didn't have that same spontaneity. Then we tried it again, and it was like, it was better, but not quite, the same. And then one of the, I think it was his manager or my manager said, man, you guys should come in and listen to the very first thing you guys did. And we're like, wait, you guys recorded that? And they're like, oh yeah, of course.
Supposed to. We no one's knowing that's the best time to record bands.
Yeah, we went in and we listened, and we're like, oh my gosh, so it just so that's what's on the record. It was the recording of us playing for the very first time, not knowing that we're being recorded. And I just thought, that's so magical, because I know for myself, and I've talked to other musicians who do this too, as soon as you know you're being recorded, you become a different person, right? You're just like, oh, you stiffen up, you're like, oh, and you start overanalyzing everything you're playing. But when you know you're not being recorded and you're just so free, I think that energy, it just comes across, and that's what I love so much about that particular recording. It's the only time in my life that I've been recorded and I didn't know it was being recorded.
I think they did that with Van Halen too. Eddie Van Halen was Eruption. I think it's like the first time is the take, because you're not thinking about it. you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, that is a magical piece of art right there, man. Eruption. That is, that's something else, man.
But you're quite good on your own. What do you actually? You being such a great ukulele player or ukulele player, do you ever play any guitar? Do you play around with it? Do you have any?
Oh no, I'm terrible. I'm terrible because I don't know what to do with the other two strings. And you know, it's funny because my whole life playing the ukulele, you know, my lowest string is the third string, right?
Mhm.
Which is a C. It's like middle C on the piano. So I don't have anything lower than middle C. And some ukulele players, you know, they'll put a low fourth string on there. So then you get a low G and that becomes your lowest note. But, you know, for the traditional tuning, you know, the lowest string is always the third string. So I've never had to deal with bass notes in my playing. So in my chord voicings and all of that, it's so nice because it's very ambiguous, right? I don't have anything below middle C. So and I kind of like that, you know, and with that having that high fourth string, it allows me to, because the fourth and the first string are only a whole step apart. I can get all like these cluster voicings, you know, these cluster chords like a
Yep.
pianist, and get these beautiful minor second voicings everywhere. And you can also do like these, you can incorporate that whole campanella technique style of playing easily, where you know, you play in a series of notes. You can play each note on a different string, so you have this cascading effect, you know, where every note can ring over the next. Yeah, at least four at a time anyway.
I think I also noticed like with some of your voicings when you play, and I could be wrong. It feels like because you'll play some of almost like because you're interpreting the singing, the melody, and now you're not playing bass, but you are putting some kind of bass, like a foundation to the music. So I do feel like you'll play some of the vocals, but you'll interpret a little bit over, so it plays to fill another gap here. You do play a bunch of different parts of the songs when you put it together. I think on some of your covers. That's how I feel when I hear it to make it feel
Mm,
full. Otherwise, because if you just played one part, it would be just like very thin. But I think the way you play it, you encompasses everything. Is that kind of close
thank
or
you. Yeah, I try to. I mean, just basically, you know, I try to. The most important thing is having, for me, is the melody, right? Having the
right?
melody there. Um, and then I just kind of, so once I find the melody, or that the top line that I'm looking for, then I just kind of start to work backward from that, right? So okay, here's the top line. Okay, now what can I do with the other strings to kind of support that,
Which
and to
makes a
kind of
huge
show
difference in it.
some movement, right? And then trying to figure out like a way to kind of keep some kind of rhythmic thing going, right? If that's the idea. You know, some songs are very free flowing, but some, you know, you want to kind of have a little bit of a groove or a
Yeah.
consistent tempo. And but yeah, I don't know, it's fun. I love it, you know, with, especially for me, I think one of the things that I love is I mean, I'm so into tone, like I'm like almost obsessed, right, with my tone on the instrument. So, like every guitar player, or you know, or every instrumentalist, right? It's always about, to me, it always comes
Right.
down to your tone and the sound that you can get, right? And so I love experimenting. You know, I have a pedal board, you know, with various effects on there
Which
where
I
I
do like. I was
can.
going to ask you about that. So this is a good time to talk about. It. Yeah, that's pretty cool. The whole pedal board thing you brought in. I know you went really, really into it, and then you kind of pulled back a little bit. Now you
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like,
I did. Well, I didn't. There was a point in my life where I felt like I was becoming too dependent on it. And I almost like didn't want to play my instrument without my pedals. You know, like that's
really,
how dependent I was. It was, and so I didn't like that feeling, you know, because I was like, well, you know, I got to get back to learning how to play my instrument by itself again, right? And
yeah.
that's when I remember I toured for about maybe 3 or 4 years, you know, just with my instrument and a DI, you know, just my ukulele, a DI, and a cable, and that's all I toured with, because I wanted to kind of get away from that. Just wanted to force myself to get away from the relying on my effects and things like that. So, but then, yeah, afterwards, I started to get very comfortable again, and I felt like and it was really great. It was such a great experience, you know, because when you're playing completely, you know, you almost feel so naked, right? Because because your sound, right, it's so, when you have a nice sounding instrument, you have a high quality instrument cable going into a high quality DI into a good system. I mean, the pristine, I mean, it's so pristine, the sound, right, that you get, because you're not having all these other electronics like sucking your tone and all that.
Oh yeah.
But then it's so revealing. So you have to be so careful, because everything you do, you hear it, right? So yeah, so it really forced me to really learn to have, more finesse, right, in your strumming, or you're picking how you taper off each note, even how your left hand, even like when you take your finger off the string for the next string, there's a certain way to do it so you don't hear that transition, right? And working on little things like that, man, it was like, wow, it was just very revealing. And yeah, but then once I started getting comfortable again playing the ukulele by itself, then I started to slowly incorporate, some pedals, and now I think I have a better balance of really appreciating, just the natural sound again, and then now incorporating some of the more affected sounds of the instrument.
I do. I like both of them. I like how you can do both. I think it's fun. It's
Thank
more
you.
creative.
Thank
I
you.
think it's and if you had a dollar for time, you would call the Jimi Hendrix of the ukulele. We didn't have to tour anymore. I mean, what are you supposed to say to that? You're like, thank you. Like, I mean, it's nice that people
I
say
know.
that, but for someone to be like modest and be like, and that's how you start off, the Jimi Hendrix
Yeah,
of your ukulele, and then you're standing, you got your instrument, you're like, Jimi Hendrix, right? Where do you go with that?
it's such an honor. I mean,
Totally.
I'm so honored that people will say that, but I always tell people I don't think Jimmy would be happy to hear that, So I feel bad, but but this is a true story. Well, as far as I know from the article that I read. But before Jimi Hendrix picked up the
Mhm.
guitar, before he had a guitar, his dad bought him an ukulele. So when he was like
Wow.
6 or 7, I think he was 6 or 7 years old, his dad found this little ukulele, I think in a pawn shop or something, and brought it home, gave it to his son. And he just loved playing it. And he would, play it all the time and try to do stuff. So that's when his father realized, like, oh, he really likes music, and
He's like,
bought
you're
him
like the
a.
Jimi Hendrix of ukulele.
So what's crazy, right? I tell people that, man, if his dad never bought him the guitar,
Right.
Jimi Hendrix would have been the greatest ukulele player of all time.
Ukulele, right? That's funny. Oh man, but
Oh man.
it's fun. I mean, I love this. I would kind of like to see you play guitar. It'd be kind of fun, just for fun, the
Oh
challenge.
gosh. I can play a couple chords. I know a few chords, and I do know the guitar intro to More Than Words,
See,
but that's
well,
it.
here's the thing. And here's like I don't know a lot about the ukulele strumming and techniques to go into, but like you have a lot of the maneuvers of a shredder. We tap the way you move your hands across it, so it feels like there would be a good transition for you to go between that. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like you're not way out there. It's not like you're playing the saxophone. Like, what's this? Your fingers are all caught in the
Yeah.
strings. It's like, you're working the board. You kind of, you know what you're doing.
Well, here's a little, whenever I work on demos, or I try to write and come up with ideas, one of the things I do is, sometimes I'll do the ukulele part, and then I'll like hear a bass line or something, and I'm like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to do this. Or sometimes, you need that low tone, right, to
Mhm.
to kind of secure a foundation for you to move over, right? And so I do have a bass at home that I play, but it's tuned like an ukulele. So
See,
instead of E A D G, I have it tuned GCEA. So that way I know all the notes right across the fretboard. So if I want this note, and then I can play whatever bass line I'm hearing, right? I can just play it like it's being played on the uke. But then it's a couple octaves lower. So
That's pretty funny, actually. That's really good. There are a lot of different like ukuleles. Like you can see in the background, my kid has one. We have a couple in my house, but they're very small and probably not the same high end quality. My kids can play them, but they seem like they're so tiny to me. Like you play a larger one. Like what would you recommend for somebody, you know, to play? A certain size? Is there a certain
oh,
like entry level or
yeah. No, I mean, I started out on the standard ones too. I mean, those are great. I do play a tenor,
feel so tiny?
four string. Yeah, it is. It's it has a little longer neck, a longer scale, and it's very comfortable for me. I'm so used to it now. But I think especially for guitar players, they really like the baritone ukulele.
Mhm.
The baritone is the largest of the four sizes, but the only thing is it's tuned lower. Yeah, it's tuned actually like the first four strings of the guitar. So it's E, B, G, D versus
So it's almost like a
the
bass.
regular.
It's almost like an acoustic bass guitar. By the time you get there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, yeah, it's like
When it's that big and the tone that low with four strings, you're like kind of like a bass guitar.
but it's nice. It's almost like those old what were they called? Tenor guitars, right? Didn't they? Martin used to make those tenor guitars, I think,
Okay.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like it's basically a guitar without the low E and the low A string, So but yeah, and they like that. I know Ray Benson, I got him a Kamaka baritone while we were working on the project, and I know he
Yeah.
loves it, because he has big hands, right?
Mhm.
And so I mean, it's so comfortable for him, and because he's such a virtuosic guitar player, the notes and the chord shapes are all the same. You don't have to do any transposing in your head or anything like that. So I know he likes it.
You make it sound so good. What's really neat is with your tone and this album, I never realized how much it translates well into like country music, national music, because it has like a lot like Nashville and country and Americana, which would be like Tom Petty, probably Asleep at the Wheel, because it has that certain sound into it. You'll hear like a mandolin, you'll hear a lot of different string instruments than just one type. So it feels like the ukulele fits right in there without even sounding out of place.
Oh
You
wow,
know,
thank
you know what I'm
you.
saying?
I appreciate that. Yeah. Um, it you know well, thank you for saying that, because that's something I'm always insecure about, because it's like, especially if I'm playing different styles of music, I always feel insecure, like, oh, is this, is am I do I have the right timbre, for the song, or am I uh is this the right color? Like, am I picking, do I need to be picking
Mhm.
further up toward the bridge, for a more nasal sound, or do I need to use more of the flesh of my skin, to get a warmer sound, or do I need more nail for that heart, more aggressive attack? So I'm always thinking about that, trying to get the right tonal quality, right, for whatever genre you're playing. And it's yeah, it's always a challenge, and it's something I'm always so insecure about, like, am I
You should
sticking
because
out like
it's
a sore thumb? Like, I always ask the other musicians, am I sticking out like a sore thumb, or is it working, meshing well? And and then
it misses
the
as well as a mandolin would because the mandolin is very high.
yeah. So yep. So I was born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, and so that's where I was, during the lockdown, and obviously, no touring, everything stopped.
Mhm.
And but yeah, I have I mean, I have two kids, and yeah, my wife was still working. She's in the medical field,
Yeah,
so she was awfully busy, during that time. And but yeah, it was just, trying to support, you're just doing whatever, to support each other, support your
yeah.
community, and be there for each other. And
Was touring
not
going to change for you now? Because well, you have two kids, and then you were at home. You for like a lot of musicians that they've always been touring, and then they get married and they had kids, so it's kind of grew into what it was. Their lifestyle was kind of like what you get. But now you've been
yeah.
home for a few years with your kids, and now they're
Mhm.
like, "Dad, wait, no, this we need to swing your schedule
Yes.
now."
it was they were used to, they were kind of, I mean, they didn't like when I would have to leave, but
Right.
but they kind, that's how things always
Right.
were, right? I would be home, and then I would have to leave, and I'd come home. But yeah, during the pandemic, it was the longest I had been home. I mean, it was the longest I had been home in like 20 plus years, right? So
Yeah.
I've always been touring, for over 2 decades. And so to be able to just be home for that long, it was, yeah, it was very different. But I tell you, once we started touring again, like last October, my kids were like, "Wait, where are you going? For how long?" Wait, what? It
Yeah,
was
you feel
such a
bad.
change. And yeah, so, and for me too, it was a lot harder to leave because, it was, yeah, it was different. And but I tell you, man, I am so grateful to be back. When we first started doing shows again, wow, you forget how powerful, like,
Like you fall in love with music
it is
again.
to be performing in front of a live audience, right? Again,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, I cried. I remember the first show I went out there, and people were just cheering, and I played my first song after that, and you just hear this roar of excitement, and it hit me so hard, and I just started crying. I just teared up, and it was just so powerful. But it was, but yeah, again, just to have the opportunity again to be out and sharing this experience with people again, it's really
Well,
special. It's something I'll
we'll talk
never
about.
take for granted again.
No, no, I don't think anyone will. So we'll end on that. The tour you started, you've been touring for a little bit now. What's the plans for the tour? The length of it? You're gonna keep going? Gonna do another record? You're gonna kind of just keep plays out for a while? COVID's kind of
Yeah, I
weird right
mean,
now still.
yeah, I mean, we're still not doing meet and greets or anything like that, but eventually, we're gonna get back to that. And so that's but so that's the only part that feels weird, because like when you're on stage and you're playing, and I mean, you're enjoying it so much, and the audience is into it. And I feel like in that moment, it's like, you know, it's like, I don't know, there's just so much positivity, and we're all just so connected, and we're enjoying this experience together. And that's what I love. That's what I love so much, because you can't achieve that same level of you can't achieve that same feeling, just by yourself. There's an energy
Right.
when everyone's in the room together, and we're all sharing the same experience, and we're in the moment together. I think that's what it's like. Being in the moment together is so powerful. And
People are
that's
no,
what
you're known for that too. That's what people say. They go to your show, they feel good. It's like you're recharging people. It's like plugging in to
um,
you, and the energy of everybody is just so powerful to just kind of
and
refuel everybody up.
and it works both ways, because I mean, I
Right.
plug into them, right? And I
Right.
mean, it's like we're all there together. And
But it's a bonus nowadays, though, because it's so heavy what's going on in the
yeah,
world between
yeah, yeah.
illness and
Oh,
sickness and wars. The fact somebody can take an hour, 2 hours, and just feel happy and feel full of
mm,
happiness, it's like, okay, I can go back out and get through this other stuff. It's like it's a nice break. It's
mm.
an island of emotions. It's a gift,
Thank
and
you.
hopefully people take it
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah,
I
you're
want to thank
absolutely
you.
right.
I want to thanks for being on the show, man. I appreciate it. This has been fantastic.
Oh, thanks. This was so much fun. And I mean, I could talk your ear off, like seriously. Like,
Maybe we'll have to, yeah, we'll have to do it again. I think because people are a connection's a little weird here, but I'd like to down the road pick up again where we were. You know, it'd be fun.
well, well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the support, and thanks for all that you do for us musicians.
Well, I thank you.
So
Everyone,
thank
the
you.
link as usual. The links are below. Check him out. He's on tour. Look now because I looked too late. It's always the next day. I was like, he's leaving my town. He chased his bus. But
Uh,
so don't make my mistake. And Go look him up. Give him his show. And go check out this documentary and go to his site and everything else to support him. And check out this new album. It's fantastic. The other ones are really good too. But this one
Thank
has a
you.
different level. It's literally like a musical history lesson of who's on it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, all right, man, brother, you take care. Thanks for being on the show.
All right, you too. All right, take care.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Take care.
See you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.